right, Zevon, you want to get us started with your piglets?
Of course, naturally. You guys are listening to Zevon and the Piglets, also known as Comedyinz. Our guest today is Ronnie Fleming. How are you, Ronnie?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Very good. Very good.
Having you right next door to your house.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's a nice commute for me, so it's very nice of you guys to
Get your
think of
steps
me.
in.
Yeah,
Very
for sure.
cool.
Podcast studio is the third space.
Correct. Yeah, it's the third location. Right. Well, God damn it. You know what? Usually we have so much momentum. Usually, like, we're laughing and crying. Somebody brings cookies.
But today we were technical difficulty
right.
dealing. But we're good now.
Correct.
All good.
The takeoff is a little slower.
We're going to start with a guided meditation.
Lord. Ronnie, where are you from originally?
I'm from a little town in Maryland, north of Baltimore, Haverty Grace, Maryland.
Very nice. But, like, where are you from? Come on. You know what we mean.
New York. I was living in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing comedy?
About 12 years,
Awesome.
give or take. Yeah.
I think you're the longest length comedian we've had on here, so we will definitely
cool.
pick your
But my
brain.
comedy's I've been doing comedy for a while, too. So
Nice.
Well,
Thank you.
we've been doing podcasting for about 5 minutes now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah.
Did you do anything before, like any other performance before stand-up? Any, like, sketch?
Yeah,
improv?
I was a big improv person. So
Really?
we had, like, improv in my high school. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be the president of the improv club. And then I went to community college.
Very
I'm like, I'm
nice.
starting an improv club. And then
Very nice.
I did a bunch of improv in D.C., because I'm from Maryland.
Makes sense. Like the DMV.
Exactly, yeah. And then when I moved to New York, I did a bunch of stuff at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade,
Mm-hmm.
before I eventually...
Do you know a comedian named Winston Hodges
No.
out of Okay, sorry. He's just he's blowing up a little bit. He's from the DMV. I met him 2020. I thought, because guys, you live in the same area, but
Mhm.
No, Ronnie is very well connected. He helped me out a lot when I visited
is
New
true.
York. Gave me a lot of recommendations. It's always good.
Very
to
cool. So
have
feel free
that.
to name
But-
drop
Oh yeah,
whenever
yeah.
at
Just
any
only.
point.
This is a name dropping only part. No,
That's
we're
right.
kidding.
Gotcha.
My favorite name dropper, John Mulaney. We were playing golf, and no, that's
Star of the new Puss in Boots movie.
oh that
John
is true.
Mulaney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's he voicing?
The really fucked up looking villain.
The guy,
Oh.
It's like
the
this
guy who
giant-
sticks his thumbs in pies.
Little Jack Horner.
Down in the
corner.
corners.
That one. Yeah.
Yeah, trading his wheat and Stingray or whatever.
Yeah.
I heard it's good.
It's incredible.
So
Is it
good.
really?
It's
It's
actually
very-
so. I hate to use the word like unironically good, but it is actually so goddamn good.
It's a hero's journey and a half,
Right.
And it's like the animation is crazy. It has like that kind of like you see Into the Spider-Verse where
Yeah.
like all that frame rate,
Chunky.
Sure. Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
all the big characters they like move like claymation almost. It's
Right.
pretty dope.
Would you ever do any voice work, any like voice acting?
Of course.
voiceover,
Yeah,
really?
definitely. Yeah. I will say yes to most things for
Word.
sure.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. What's like maybe not the weirdest project, but like what's something someone's been like, oh my gosh, you do stand up. You're so funny. Why don't you do blah, 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 like X? Like what do people come to you with?
What do they come to me with? I don't know, but when you said that, it reminded me of I did like something naked once where I was just had to be completely full frontal, and it was for a comedy thing. It wasn't
Naturally.
just okay. So
I imagine it was very funny.
it was. I don't know if it was funny actually, but it was just sort of like wow. It's my entire day. I was just like totally naked, and I'm like okay. So
What was the?
okay, so now it's like probably easily Googleable, but it was sort of like one of those things where it's this video is how to give a great blowjob, right?
Word.
But first, Paul's letters to the Corinthians, and you would read the entire, and you just read the whole thing. So it's like, all right, it's sort of like this weird high concept thing. And I'm like, okay, cool, but then it's just sort of like the reality is, okay, 4 hours, I'm just gonna be completely naked,
and it's
you know?
cold. And
Oh my god.
did they upload it to like Vimeo or Pornhub? Or?
I don't know. I don't want to leave a paper
Yeah,
trail.
yeah, you don't want a full.
Funnily enough, the person who told me about Pittsburgh stand-up comedy scene was a nudist. His
Interesting.
name was Tom something. He hadn't done stand-up for a while. I met him on Reddit. I was moving back to Pittsburgh, and I was like, I need some friends. So I
Yeah.
jumped on Reddit. And
Word.
he's like, yeah, there's like this great stand-up scene. That go to the Parkway on Fridays, That's why I used to do all my nudist sets. And like,
Would he do them nude?
no, he just talked about being a nudist. There's this
Oh,
great.
well,
there's
that's
this-
only-
There's this great podcast highlight that I think he deleted from his channel. It was Johnny Smith asking this guy Tom about being a nudist, and it's just fantastic. Johnny Smith's like, So do you get hard? Do you get hard all the time?
Right, yeah.
Believe it or not, no.
I
Believe it
imagine
or
you
not.
probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's
Get
probably-
hard all the time? No.
Yeah, it probably gets very boring.
Oh man.
Who asked you to
Well-
do this thing?
It's a friend of mine.
You know what?
The less details you give, the worse. It's
Yeah,
it's just like a pal, and you can't find it, and don't ask.
No, it was just sort of like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. I'm going to challenge myself as a
Yeah.
performer, and then you did it. And then like right after that, all these like naked shows were blowing up, and I'm like, I've done this. I've done my time. I don't need to do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Clucking,
I think that's
clucking.
the
Yeah.
key to success in comedy is just saying yes to everything at least once. Like, I mean, maybe not everything, but like, I don't know.
Leaving
I
yourself
guess-
open.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
If
thought
you-
about- I
if
would
it's a
look-
concept you can get behind, do it. Like,
Mhm.
I would love to put on a blackout show. You know those like blackout restaurants? There's, like,
Oh,
no
where you're
light.
blindfolded and they,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it'd be funny for like to have like,
Oh God.
have like a comic on like a headset with a mic in it, just like walking around like touching people, but also doing stand-up
Still
jokes.
asking them about their food.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
oh.
You two fucking?
Yeah.
You had this long hair, short buzzed hair, bald guy.
Yeah.
You guys are husband and wife. I can tell.
Well, it's like that's almost like a weird medium thing, like a weird psychic.
Yeah, you're just going through. I think you're an Aries.
It's like
Sense the energy.
One of
I
your
don't know anything about
one of your old
horoscopes.
jokes is coming to me right now. It's pretty hack.
Oh man.
Something.
So Ronnie, what's like the biggest show you've done? Like the biggest.
Like most amount of people, or like the biggest
maybe
sort of like
like-
career show?
Yeah. Like what's the one that like you were like, hell yeah, I am a fucking professional comedian. This is cool.
Let me think. I don't know. I mean, like, it's the first time you do an hour, it feels like pretty cool. You're like, oh, I
Oh,
did the
yeah.
hour. I can do
Mhm.
this thing, and then you're just like, well, it wasn't really a great hour, but I can do the time at
It was
least.
an hour.
Yeah. I don't know. Like last end of September, I filmed like a special or an album recording. So that was in New York and QED Astoria,
Mhm.
and we filmed that. And that felt really cool. It felt like, I don't know. We do a lot of these shows, and it feels like, okay, what are we doing this for? But it felt kind of like, oh my, a lot of people came out for it. It felt really good, and you're just like, yeah, all right, we did it. That felt like a milestone in a way.
Nice.
Heck yeah.
I don't know. Just I don't know. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Follow up. How far into your comedy career were you when you hit that first hour where you were like, you know what, this is solid enough for me to just do this on stage?
You know, I don't think it was ever like I felt like it was solid enough. It was more or less just like, well, I was given the opportunity, so I'm gonna do it. You
How
know?
far in
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, like 7-8 years.
7-8 years.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I was like, I've been featuring on the road for a few years at that point. You know, it more or less just like I had a car, which helped.
Word.
So, you know, my friend, he was doing the hours, and I would drive him, and he was just like, okay, here's this money, not that much, but you want to do 30 minutes every night? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Mhm.
And big learning curve because New York City, very different than the rest of the country. So
True.
people aren't really laughing the same shit about open mic comedy and being in the subway and you know your polyamorous relationship.
With rats.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's I mean, like when people talk to you after or before the show, what's something that's stuck out to you? Like something someone said, either it was like very kind or actually it's probably better if it's something completely fucked up and weird. But if something like really just is like a neon sign in your mind, like I'll never
I had a joke about circumcision.
Word.
And the joke is basically that, you know, I want to have kids so that I can experiment with them and circumcise one and not the other one and see how they're different.
Love
And this
They don't
guy,
have to be your kids, by the way.
I guess they're not. I never thought about
Yeah,
that.
there's a big barrier there.
I'm a godfather, so it's, you know, I don't know what the rules with that are, but no, this guy came up to me. He's like, I did that with my sons
Oh my
in
god!
Florida, and I was just like, oh my god, and I was just like, I was freaked out, but I'm like, I had a lot of questions.
Did he like reach for his binder? Like I have graphs, and I could check.
I have the data, the
Yeah.
raw
Cut back,
data.
and I had a third child. I only did half.
Of course, it was in Florida too. Like,
Oh,
Yeah, it
God.
was a little
man.
on the nose, but it was just like, okay, this is all right, cool.
That's pretty
Oh,
good.
man.
I had one of that kind of situation happen to me like a week ago at Getaway. I have a joke about being a cuck, and in the joke I present it as if I have a wife, and I'm walking off stage, and this like super drunk girl comes up to me, and she's like, "Where's your wife?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just a joke," and she was like, "Aw," like as if she wanted to like get involved in the fucking
Interesting.
triangle. She's like, "That's funny though, I guess." And walks away.
I do think I think it's like some audience members want there to be like an extended universe. They want
Sure,
everything to
yeah.
like tie up and be like, yeah, and so like your uncle who's a surgeon did this because like they almost, and I have to think about that too when I'm up there. Like I think I'm just doing non sequiturs, one-liners, But on the other side, they are like desperately trying to like connect things. Like, okay, what story are you telling? Like, who are you? What's going on? And so sometimes I feel like I'm almost doing people like a disservice by being just like, okay, let's talk about jellyfish now. And it's like, did you go to the beach? Do you like jellyfish? Like, no, it's just a totally different. I don't know. Do you find like when you're writing jokes, is there like a through line that you're trying to do, or?
If I like got my shit together, yeah.
Word.
Other times I'm just like, well, I'm just doing scattershot stuff, and it's like, what is that? What did I even talk about on there? Just sort of like this was just a bunch of random thoughts.
Yeah.
But I do think, people do want to kind of latch on to you as a person or a character or something.
You do have a character though. You do have it's like a persona.
Yeah.
The guy with the glasses.
Yeah, Chase Freely.
Chase Freely, that's right.
The 59-year-old Margaritaville comedian.
Hell yeah.
How did that? Tell us about that. What was the birth of Chase Freely? Was it a parking lot in Tallahassee, and it just like a bolt from the blue?
I was on a road trip. I was touring with two other comics, and we're just like in the car for like a very long time, and we were just kind of like losing our minds slowly.
Word.
And then we were just talking about like, if you had a character, what would you name it? And immediately I was like, oh, Chase Freely. This is just a thought that I had in my head. Probably because there was a guy in Kiss named Ace Freely, so I didn't even think about that. But I was just like, it's
two
Chase
neurons
Freely.
involved
Exactly.
with that one.
So we were just on the road, and we're just kind of like pitching these jokes back and forth, and we played the song Margaritaville about 100 times on loop. So we just kept playing it over and over again. And they say stuff like, when you're like a successful comic, you can your style is you can do an impression of somebody. You can do a Mulaney, you can do a Seinfeld, you can do all these things, right?
Yeah.
Chase, I've never been able to do it, but Chase actually does have a style. He has like, people always like, Chase, what's this? And he responds. That's kind of how the structure of all those jokes happened.
I see. Okay.
I like that your version of Bolero, the classical piece that makes everybody go insane, is Margaritaville. Where Bolero's like, and Margaritaville's like,
it is like a
brilliant madness.
No, it's a creepy song. If you play it 50 times, it does start to feel like you're in like a long hall and. Oh my God. Okay.
yeah.
Unfunny thing, that song was supposed to be for Elvis, but then he died. So then,
it do be that way.
yeah.
That does happen.
I can't even imagine that being an Elvis song. I'm like,
Right, because he's
sing it
dead.
well,
It's
yeah. In the multiverse somewhere, Elvis
There
did
is
that
an
song.
Elvis
I'm trying to
Margarita.
tap into it.
Which is actually my persona is Elvis Margaritaville. We'll go on stage. I'll fight you. Chase versus Elvis. How often do you whip out Chase? Is that like is it your parachute? Like, oh, I'm losing him. Let's see if Chase can get him back.
Typically, if I'm doing like a headlining set, I'll do it. I'll say, actually, I know that I was supposed to be the last comic, but actually, we found another guy in the parking lot.
Like a kid's birthday party.
I'm doing it tonight for sure, but we're doing.
turns around, has sunglasses on.
Well, we did the show, and so Kevin Eggleston, my old roommate, he has a show at a swingers club. And literally, there's like naked people at the show and stuff. So I was performing, and I'm on stage, and then like literally a naked woman came out and was in the audience.
Word.
And I was just flustered. I was just kind of like, I was blushing. I kind of didn't know how to
Visual
react to
heckling.
it. It was just sort of
heckling.
like I was like trying to talk to her, but like doing crowd work, but my eyes were averted because I was just whatever, like odd and Catholic. So like, but then I was just like, you know what? I brought Chase back on. Chase didn't give a shit. He's seen a ton of boobs that day. So he was just able to kind of go up
This
and
is
kind
the
of
10th pair.
Yeah, for sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so
It really is.
that's so weird. Not weird, but that's like a superpower. Being able to like switch.
We're in our own small little bubble. We think open mics are all there is, and then
There's a whole wide world of
there's
Chase
swing-
Freelys.
there's swinger clubs.
There's swinger
That's-
clubs. That's right. Yeah. Well, so I guess that's a good segue. What's like, that might be it. But what is like the weirdest venue?
I mean, it's hard to top the Swingers
Word.
Club. I mean, I've done a bunch of shows with dogs in the audience, and that's fine. But like, dogs are distracting, especially to audience members, because they're just sort of like, they're dogs.
Yeah,
but
they're
boobs,
cute.
It's just like a naked person. So we did that show again, and literally that woman was back. She loves attention, and she was literally being another guy was going down on her in the middle of like the headliners. It was fucking nuts.
No.
My
Totally.
God.
Totally.
Fucking nuts.
It was crazy.
my God.
I highly recommend the show, everybody.
Oh,
It
yeah.
That sounds
Oh,
fantastic.
wow.
I'm sure the
That
comedy is
is-
great too.
She's like coming and laughing at the same time.
It's a ruckus show, but everyone's like kind of because everyone's probably getting laid or watching someone. Everyone's very relaxed, so
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
everyone just
yeah.
they're a great audience.
But they have like a 2-drink minimum. They should have like a 1 fuck minimum before ever. It's like before you can't.
At least one handy.
At least
one
one,
handy.
yeah.
No virgins allowed.
All those people on poppers for sure too.
No, I'm
Oh man, that is
vasodilated.
so wild. Okay, so rougher segue. No, but so you started out doing improv, then you did open mics.
Yeah.
How was your transition to like where you are now? Like, what kind of was your pathway to get to, you know, doing small headliners, doing road tours?
Well, so yeah, open mics were rough, and I was doing like a lot of open mics, especially when I started in New York. Man, it was like the level of talent was so high, and also like
Yeah.
the level of credits. So I'm just like, oh, that guy just did Conan, and he's doing like this open mic now. It's like nuts.
Yeah.
So the I don't know, like the feeling of I shouldn't be here. I'm not good enough. This is like all in your head anyway. But then when you're like, oh, these people are actually like really good, and they've been on television and stuff, you're just like, all right, I suck. So I remember when, okay, this is actually kind of embarrassing. I remember once I was just like, I bombed at an open mic, and one of the guys said something that I thought was mean, but looking back, it was like not that bad at all. I went home and I literally, I'm like, I'm quitting comedy. I burnt my joke notebook, and I'm like, I'm
Oh
fucking
my
done.
God.
Super emo, too. I was like, everyone gather around in my backyard. And all my
Fucking Linkin
roommates are
Park
like,
is
wow.
playing.
It was so bad.
Goodbye to my comedy.
Did the whole thing catch? Did you just?
It kind of was burning, and I kind of just was like, it kind of just did the corners of it, and it was just like, well, you get the symbolism.
Now it just looks like you're writing jokes in like the 16th century. Like, it's like, oh well, let me open up my tome.
Exactly.
It's like the Brown. That's
Oh,
crazy.
man.
But yeah, but then it was just like, then I did improv again, and then I was just sort of like
in New York.
in New York. Yeah, I was
Gotcha.
doing improv, and then I remember there was like a show that was supposed to be an improv and a stand-up thing, and the show was canceled because there's no audience. And they were just sort of like two groups of sad people on either side of the room, and I'm like, I'm hanging out with the improv people, and I'm looking at the comics. I'm more like those sad people though.
Oh, yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
kind of wandered over, and then after that, I was just like, I feel like I had to make a choice of choose my poison.
I think improvisers are they're very smiley. They're very smiley,
Yeah.
very happy people. But then comedians, I feel like they're like unnecessarily mopey.
Yeah,
They, like,
improv
play
people
into
are
it.
yes
Can be.
and comedians are no but 100%.
Yeah, that's very true.
Honestly, yeah.
Oh, makes sense. Do you still do any improv?
No, I don't. I liked it a lot. It was like a lot of fun. It's like super fun.
Mhm.
But then afterwards, you're just like, well, what did I even do? There's nothing. It's just
Left of
it's ethereal, which makes it great. But also, I like writing. I like to be
Yeah.
constantly
You
being
wanna,
able to work
like,
on
build.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you can't, what are you supposed to do? You're just like practicing your space work, your object work at home. It's like I got
In the
really good
mirror.
at picking up a cup. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, it's great.
What did you do? What did you do for civilian work before comedy?
I was a dog walker, so I started walking dogs at a film school, and then I just pretty much did that. I worked at the zoo for a while
Word. Also
And,
walking
In New York?
in New York at the Bronx Zoo. I was they had this dinosaur safari ride, and I was in the back of a truck being like, "Oh my God, there's a velociraptor!" And I did that for 8
Ah,
hours a day. It
nice.
was like
Oh my god.
I thought it was great. I was like, I'm gonna be talking to a microphone all day. It fucking sucked. So I don't recommend that. And then I got back into dog walking because one of the walkers broke their leg. So I was like, all right, I'll do this again. And then my boss, okay, this is like rambly, but then my boss is like, hey, why don't you like move in with me? So I moved in with my boss, and I ran the doggy daycare center for like 5 years, and then the pandemic happened.
Oh,
You legit went from open mic dog walking to
To
headlining
yeah.
dog walking.
headlining dog.
sure.
What's so
yeah.
funny that there's probably there's someone out there who's like, I could have been the best dog walker except for my bum knee. Like there's someone who's like watching clips of people just like walking down, fucking like talking to their kid, like I could have fucking
Even less logically cogent if they want to put it all together. Like I could have been a pro comic by now.
I could have.
If I wouldn't have broke my leg,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could
I
have made
would
that
have
up
been
on
a pro
mic.
comic. It's just
Yeah, I feel like there's always like a reason that you find like if you start getting in that like negative headspace about comedy where you're like, oh well, I just don't have this, or like you start like
Mhm.
making those excuses, and I don't know. That's why I kind of like your book burning story because
Oh.
it's like if you can get past that,
Oh,
like I
sure.
think that's a big part of like what keeps you coming out because
That makes sense.
I've had a few of those times in the past year, and
Oh
yeah, you just got to keep powering through.
How do you feel like you have evolved as a writer? You know, like, do you feel like there's kind of like a style that's sort of changed, or do you think you keep the same kind of beats, or?
Well, I guess like I've structured the act a lot more than I have. I mean, I probably have too many callbacks at this point. But I've figured out a way, because when you're doing like a longer set, you have to like it's just a long time to be in front of people. So like, how can I make this part exciting and have like a beginning, middle, and end to it, and kind of have it all kind of come together, especially when you're not necessarily doing this for like comedy savvy audiences. So it's just sort of like they got to be like, oh, all right, we're back at it, you know, or I'm doing the show again. I'm reminded, and it might seem like there's chaos happening. But I just want you to know that there is sort of a method to the madness a little bit. Like I'm not just fucking talking here. Like I am kind of, I've thought this through at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then always trying to work on things. Like I want to do stories. I want to do stuff like that. So it's not necessarily something I'm good at. So just like working at it more and more.
Would you say like that's like the area that you kind of want to grow the most in currently, or?
Yeah.
Like storytelling.
I think, yeah.
Kind of like narrative.
I think that's better.
just in general, just better for everybody.
Yeah, I feel like people like want a narrative, and I feel like that's not always the case. Sometimes if you have like 5-7 minutes, and just like people just are not on board for it. But if you're doing something longer, they wanna go along with you for the ride. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's a very natural thing too. Like, I mean, if you look at it, like oral history was always just stories of what's going on. So
Epic
it's like a very
poems
innate thing that like the longer you're gonna keep somebody's attention, the more they want to follow you on some kind of a journey.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything I learned about stand-up, I learned in jail, you know. When people get in the rec cages, they're the best natural comedians of all time.
I think
Going
that's
to
true,
the Chinese massage parlor with $20 that's an all-time classic.
I jerk you. You jerk you.
Have you been in jail? Is that real?
Yeah.
What kind of jail?
Allegheny County Jail, ACJ.
For what?
Terroristic threats, harassment, and stalking. At that point, terroristic threats and harassment. I have bipolar, so I was just going crazy.
All right.
Yeah, I was in the hole for quite a while, and there was this great guy named Bonehead.
Yeah.
And every time he got in like the rec cages, because there's central rec cages.
Rec cages?
Gigantic.
No, I keep hearing rat cages.
No, rat.
Every time you say
RAC.
I gotcha.
And so it's basically like, it is a performance, because you're like, it's basically like a panopticon stage, wraparound stage, 60 cells looking at the
like Square Garden.
And whenever Bonehead would get wrecked, people would literally go,
yeah, get wrecked.
Get wreck, like 60 minutes of wreck.
Oh,
like you can just walk in a cage instead of just walking in your cell.
Interesting.
There's nothing in there either.
How's the lighting?
The lighting's pretty good, honestly. And it's like you have a.
It's the next Don't Tell shows.
Holy shit!
You have like a fucking forced viewpoint, because like you can either like look outside and it's like this big, or you have like a little square thing where you can look straight at the rec cages. So like Bonehead would get out there and he'd be like like people would be like, they would be cheering like, yeah, Bonehead, whoa. And he converted to Islam while he was in there. So he'd either talk about the Quran or he would
people hype about it.
Yeah, he was talking about his dreams too, and like, those are pretty. He was a great orator. He was a great orator.
Talk about a captive audience.
Yeah, but his classic story, one of his classic stories, he'd get in there, he'd be like, "Yo, so you guys know those Chinese massage parlors? I went there one time, but I only had $20. Okay, you can't get anything for $20. So we go to the end, and she's like, "Happy ending time," and she's like, "You only have $20? No, you jerk you off." And then he's like, "I'm not gonna do that." And then he's like, eventually, he's like, "But eventually, I did it!" And then, stuff like that. The rec cages were hilarious. Just
rec cage.
Jail was like a non-stop fucking antisocial fun house of just
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, craziness. Sometimes people would get in the cages and they'd like point to somebody in the second cell. When you point at somebody, that means like when you're back in Gen Pop, you're gonna get like jumped or whatever. They're like, "No, it wasn't me, man. I didn't snitch." And they're like, "Yeah, you did. Yeah, like, you." And then it's like, yeah. It's great. It's pretty fun stuff.
Logan doesn't share this on stage a lot, but he's had a good hero's journey away from jail. He's a gold something role thing? You're
Gold
graduating
Squadron.
soon?
Golden Squadron.
In probation, my judge, she's very into Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a Gold Squad Best Boy award while people in the back are getting kicked in the Sarlacc pit.
Oh man.
Is that what this judge calls jail?
No, she should though. There is another award called the Han Solo Turning It Around Award though. That is 100% real.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We could give that out.
Weird, that was a weird segue, but yeah, or it was weird, weird divergence. Jail.
No, I thought that was interesting. I liked it.
My friend was in rehab. He got really good at chess. Was there any big chess things happening?
I got really good at voices.
Interesting.
This is another good one. Bonehead, you could talk to the vents or you could talk to the cracks. And Bonehead had this friend who sounded like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Uh-huh.
And so he'd always be like, Bonehead, what's up, brother? Bonehead, what's going on? So it's a pretty easy voice to do.
Yeah.
So it's just Shaggy. And so then I would just get in the vents and I'd be like, Bonehead, what's up, brother? And then Bonehead would be like, what's going on? And then the other guy would come back on. He'd be like, that's not me. Even the guards once were like, are you the guy doing all the voices? And I was like, yeah. They're like, that's pretty funny.
Nice.
I got very good at Scrabble when I was in the psych ward.
Oh, really?
I actually got so good that no one wanted to play with me. I would just fucking, and they were already depressed, so I just made them sadder. But
you'll never be me.
Yeah, exactly. Not only is your life in shambles, but I'm amazing at this. Even when I'm having a crisis, and that's actually a good word, crisis.
Oh, that's good.
No, it's probably like 15. Anyways, do you play any games?
What kind of?
I'm trying to keep the ball rolling. I'm trying to move from
ping pong. I'm a big ping pong guy.
That is true. You did kick my ass the other day.
You were the best at the fucking little ring toss thing at the fucking
I
Willow
was, yeah.
Station.
I have a really competitive streak, so
Word.
It's I really do enjoy like games of I don't know. It's not a game of chance.
Games of minor skill.
Yeah, games of very
hand-eye coordination only.
Mostly random, but a little bit of skill.
Yeah.
Did you like play sports growing up?
Yeah, I played football. I played lacrosse. Yeah, those were the games I played. Little League.
Nice. What was your favorite? What were you best at?
Probably the best at football, but I hated it.
What's there to hate?
Same.
It was just sort of
You
like
did play football, yeah.
I don't know. It's like third grade. It's like, you're playing football. I'm like, what is football? And then that's how I played.
Word.
Yeah, but it was fine. Yeah, I don't know. I quit football to join the improv club, which is a big disappointment for a few people. And then, yeah, that was kind of it.
No, I
don't know.
Well, there's that alternate version of you that stayed with football.
I know. I
but
think
also
about that
still
sometimes.
did comedy. He probably started as Chase Freely, and now he has to transition. And now Ronnie Fleming, I guess. And
Did you guys have like a theater program? Did you ever do?
We had a theater program, yeah. It was in my school. I was kicked out of the theater program. I did like I did a prank on stage in the middle of a production, and I got really in trouble for it. So
would you like to?
It wasn't that big of a deal. It was an arsenic and old lace. You guys know the old one, and basically I blacked out my teeth, and I thought like we were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm like, and then my friend was like, "Oh my God, that gap is amazing," and I'm like, I have an idea. So I got the makeup and I did a little mascara, and then I went on stage, and I thought it'd be like a funny thing, like, "Oh my God, Ronnie did this thing, wasn't that funny?" But everybody on stage started laughing, so the whole scene just kind of completely fell apart.
Oh shit!
And I was packing my shit like really quick so that the director wouldn't find out about it or whatever. And he was like, "Good stuff, guys." And then Ravenna Motil McGuire, actually, she said, she goes, "Don't you know why we were laughing?" And then he was like, "Because Brad missed his cue." He's like, "No, Ronnie had a gap in his teeth." And I'm like walking, I'm trying to get out the hallway, and he goes, "Ronnie!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, it was a big mistake." He's like, "That really pisses me off." So the next day I show up for drama class, and he hands me a book. I have to go to the office just to do schoolwork or book work and stuff. And then the next day my dad he showed up to I was called to the office. I didn't know about it. My dad was there in the police uniform. My dad was a cop, and he was just like, he was like, "So what'd you do?" And I was like, "I blacked out my teeth." He's like, "For the play?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, he started like kind of chuckling to himself, and then he kind of came in, the principal and Mr. Trey Montana, fuck that guy, was like, he would just kind of like, "Yeah," and my dad was like, "Yep, we're gonna talk about this when we get home." He didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's totally blown out of proportion.
Yeah, for
oh
sure.
my God.
In the third grade, my dad saved me because there was this kid at recess. He'd always fucking like pick on me or whatever. My dad was he was a big Christian guy. He's like, "Eventually, son, it's just eye for an eye."
Oh wow,
that's
that's
the
nice.
next day at school, he was
Old
fucking with me.
Testament.
I grabbed 2 hula hoops and I like put them around his neck, like Venn diagram style.
Wow.
And then ripped it. And then eventually they got me off him. He was fine. It's hula hoops, he doesn't choke it out. And then we got to the. I was a private Christian elementary school. We got there. She's like, "You have to go say sorry." My dad was just like, "He's not gonna do that."
God damn.
Oh shit.
He's not gonna do that.
Oh man, yeah, I got kicked out of private Christian school.
Word.
I was Catholic growing up, and then in kindergarten, the teacher hated me so fucking much because I would get my work done, and then I'd be bored, and
Yeah.
they'd tell us to literally like twiddle our thumbs, and that was not enough for a 5-year-old with ADHD.
Whoa.
Well,
And
that's-
so I
that's
would
pretty
talk
funny.
to people around me, and then they wouldn't get their work done. And they moved me beside every single person in the class. And finally, there was one other talker in the class who they just put us in like a corner so that we would just annoy
Quarantine.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I had to leave the school after that. Like I got sent to like, oh my gosh, they would take away like all of my recess every day. So then like I wouldn't have any time to like
Sure,
get rid
yeah.
of the energy.
Huh.
And it just like spiraled. She also taught me I was a year older than what I was, that I was born in 1995 when I was born in 1996. So she thought I was one of the oldest kids in the class, and I
That's
was actually
that's
like
iconic.
the youngest
what?
kid in the
How
class,
do you
maturity
fuck that
wise.
up?
Huh.
And oh, dude, it was insane. Like I got sent to the nuns all the time,
Wow.
and yeah.
Damn.
Then I went to public school, and
everything
my
got
aunt
so
was
much
my
better.
first grade teacher, and she still gave me a C in conduct.
What a
Yeah, no,
Huh,
I always
asshole.
had like A's, but I had to have something else to do. And I
Sure.
didn't know how to do that for myself, so then I was always in trouble. But that's how I
That's how you
became friends
became
with the
who you are
teachers. I
today.
became very funny, and like so if I'd miss a deadline on something, they'd be like, "Oh, it's Georgia, it's fine." Like,
very nice.
or they'd be like, like I'd have inside jokes with the teachers because I was like a really cool kid, but I'd have like inside jokes with the teachers so that like I don't know, when they were mad, they wouldn't actually be that mad.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I told a teacher once that she wasn't the brightest crayon in the box at one point.
Word.
Hell yeah.
And she was laughing. She was like, Georgia, you can't say that to adults right now. That was funny. I'm going to have to sit you down for 5 minutes, but I'm not going to tell your mom. Like, that was
Yeah.
funny, but not in this dynamic. And that was the kind of talkings, too.
Ronnie, were
I
you
got
a class clown in school, or
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's some kind of dichotomy between comics who were either like quiet introverts who like just took notes about everything, and then like the class clown types. There's two types of comics.
Yeah.
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 I wasn't necessarily a class clown as much as I was like a teacher's lounge clown.
Teachers lounge.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I think there's also comics who are like actually really academic or like really good at school,
Yeah.
and those comics succeed. I find because they're
Hell yeah.
organized.
They write things down.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's definitely true.
Yeah, I remember being like, there was like, I was always, oh yeah, I gotta post. I was always kind of like annoyed when I was actually secretly jealous of the other funny kid in school.
Really?
So I'm just like, oh fuck this guy, and he's getting big laughs. I'm like, yeah, but he's a hack.
He's
He's so bad.
He's a hat class
even
clown.
then, you know. like,
Even then, I was just
Had
like
a sense.
super pretentious.
you know how easy these jokes
Dude,
are?
everything he's saying is from Family Guy and Billy Madison.
Yeah.
My stuff's OG, bro. My
Yeah.
stuff's original.
Yeah. So, so I was petty from an early age.
Word.
Was
Petty
your-
for me.
Was your like family like big on comedy or anything? Were they like laughers, or were you the?
I remember it being like pretty like weird, intense at home, but my dad fucking loved Seinfeld.
Hell yeah.
He like loved it. So it was like he didn't really have anything in common with any of these characters.
Yeah.
Like he actually hates New York, but he was just like, oh man, this is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like watching it as a kid. Like I don't understand any of this stuff because it's all kind of like adult stuff
Yeah,
about like
very existential too. It's very
totally yeah.
yeah.
But it's pretty smart too, and it's also just like you're helping him move. You just met the guy, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, where I just didn't totally understand. Like, what do you mean helping somebody move? But
yeah.
when you're an adult, you're just like, this is like everything about adulthood is in this TV show. I also remember like hearing my dad laugh really hard once from the basement, and I'm like, what is going on? And he was watching the scene from not Shallow Hal. What the fuck is this movie? Something About Mary.
Oh,
where,
right.
where the guy gets his dick stuck in a zipper.
Yeah.
It was just like, I've never heard my dad laugh so hard. I'm like, is he okay? And I went downstairs. He's howling. So I'm just like, I gotta be as funny as getting my dick stuck in a zipper. That's like
And that's your house on the hill. That's what you're
Exactly.
chasing.
Yeah.
That's like your their North Star.
Uh-huh.
That's very good. Who did you like listening to as a kid? Did you like stand up or did you like sketch shows or?
Let's see, as a kid, what did I watch? I don't know. I liked I mean, Chappelle Show was on.
Word.
I mean, there's all like the Comedy Central Presents and stuff. When I first started doing stand-up, it was like I loved Doug Stanhope. And I wasn't living a Doug Stanhope life, so I would come on stage and just try to like be like a Doug Stanhope joke. And everyone's like, "Why is this 22-year-old so drunk?" I don't know. So it was just sort of like weird. So yeah, So as a kid, what I watched, I don't know. The Wonder Years, not very funny.
No, builds up your sensibility.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
But yeah, it was sort of like, it was like comedy, but also like, movies. I wanted to be like so I was like, all these serious movies. I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is, you got to be watching Taxi Driver or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
I'm God's loneliest man.
exactly. It's like, I related that at 16. I'm like, I am this man. I'm Travis Bickle.
No one's talking to me.
Yeah.
That's cool. I always like to talk to people about not just like the comedy they watch, but also just like the shows they watch, the books because I feel like every piece of it, like I'll do a voice on stage and I'll realize, oh, like that's an impression of a guy I heard in like one video, like just like deep in my subconscious, and I'm like, okay, that's where that's from.
Interesting. Yeah. For sure, man. I remember like right before I moved to New York, it was like a big like move for me, but I was like reading all books I should not have read. I was like reading like Thoreau and Walden, and I'm just sort of like, like the one about the kid who's got lived in the bus and died into the wild.
The Candless, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, that was like, I'm doing this, and I'm just like, then I'm like moving to this like giant metropolis. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
How am I going to subsist
Throw
off?
Walden and like, what the fuck? I'm not.
How am I going to subsist off berries in Central Park?
Yeah, it's like, I guess I'll go to the bodega.
I'm burning my money. It's like, this is dumb. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
When would you say, as somebody who's lived in New York and you've left New York, as a for a comic advice, I'd say like, when do you move to New York? When do you move to LA? When would you say is like?
Good question. So I don't know. If I could just give random advice and
that also works.
without thinking about the responsibility that it beholds to tell someone what to do with their life.
Our audience is vast.
Perfect. So I started in a big scene and now I'm in a smaller scene, right? I wish I'd started in a smaller scene and then I went to a bigger scene. So right now what you can do is, I would tell somebody, once you're like, you're featuring a little bit on the road, you have like solid 20, 30 minutes maybe. And then, because the idea is that when you move to New York, you want to be good, right?
Yeah.
So that everyone just sees you and you're just like, oh, that guy's kind of like already somewhat of he's established his voice a little bit and he's got jokes, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to these open mics with stuff that's like fucking tight and getting laughs because everyone else is pretty much just like, they're doing that, but everyone knows them already. So you're making a first impression and you want to be a fucking killer. And you're just like, then everyone's like, oh, okay, this is like a legit commodity already. So I guess that, like, have a good 25, 30, and then you're going to get there and be like, oh, a lot of this stuff actually doesn't work here. So then you'll kind of divil it down. And here's the thing. I think that no matter what, you're going to move to New York and you're going to have like a crisis of confidence and you're like, have this existential crisis of like, who am I? What the fuck? This scene's so fucking big. And then you realize how big comedy is. And then it's just sort of like, it's a whole mind fuck. And it's a matter of like, there's just like a million options. Like, should I be spending my time doing this, whatever. But honestly, man, the fact that, you're coming from a smaller place, you have friends that are also probably going to be making the move. It's going to be nice. You're going to have like allies and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that is a good thing. Did I answer your question?
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like,
Okay.
dovetailing off of that. Because of like, in Pittsburgh, like we try to do almost, Pittsburgh is a small enough scene that we basically try to do everything.
Sure.
In Pittsburgh, like,
And you can, like, it is
you
small enough
can.
that you can
feasibly
do
you
everything.
could do you could do all the mics in one night. How do you even like start to think about that in New York? I'm assuming there's got to be like 10 mics a night. Or
Ronnie
something,
sent me
right?
so many spreadsheets just for my visit.
Spreadsheet
It was
already.
just-
I'm just like, oh,
but it
fuck.
was super helpful, and there were so many freaking options.
Yeah.
And at least, sorry, I'm not trying to take your wind out of
No,
this one.
please,
I just
please.
wanted to layer in one thing of just like me as a newer Pittsburgh comic going to visit. I went to a few mics where I was like, okay, I see where if I was trying to build myself up as a comic in New York, you would come home so defeated because there were people that were just wholeheartedly bombing. Like, you could tell they were very new. And I was like, this would feel insurmountable if I was trying to build something there, which is why I was like, okay, confirmed. I'm going to chill in Pittsburgh for a couple of years, make sure I have my time, get good at this thing in a place that I get more opportunities here. Like, they don't get like a 10-minute set somewhere unless you really like network hard there. And like the only reason I got 10 minutes was because I talked to a friend of Ronnie's, and then sent in my set, and then they were like, all right, cool. Like, that is the only way, and I just feel like you wouldn't even get a chance to, like, practice that 10 before you're doing it in a room where it's, like, feels a little important. And that was still in just, like, a basement in Brooklyn, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
But, sorry, you can continue whatever you wanted to say.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm sorry.
Is it like
strategy?
No, that was great. No,
is it like you wake up? You wake up at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. You're like, it's a Bushwick kind of night. It's fucking. I'm going up to fucking Harlem. I don't know. I'm going to the East End. I'm going to the East Side. There's an East Side comedy kind of night. You know what I mean?
I guess it depends on. That's the thing, man. It's like the. What is it about something of options or like there's a lot of things you can do. So
decision fatigue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sometimes it's like, is this place close to me? You know?
Yeah.
If you have a day job, it's like, all right, how much energy do I have? Do I need to get back to sleep at a certain point, or am I going to be super ambitious tonight? Do I have new jokes I want to work on? Where's the show that I'm doing tonight? Am I hanging out at another place tonight? Do I want to do a place that's kind of closer? That that train goes to this way. So there's just a lot of different ideas, but it all kind of all depends on you, really.
I like what you said earlier about like you show up with 25, you show up with 30, you find out it doesn't really work, you pare it down, and then you have that crisis. Because I think I talked to someone, maybe a couple of years ago about this, like, when do you move to LA? When do you move to New York? And they basically said that like you'll get good where you start, like a smaller city, a smaller town, and that's good. Like you should do that. But no matter how good you get, or maybe it just whatever is the case, when you move, there is this big reset. And that's like unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so you just be prepared. Like, yes, you'll write stuff, and it's better than having nothing. Obviously, you want to have, you want to establish that time, and you want to establish that rapport. But yeah, at the same time, it's like it's just gonna. There's just a different environment. Everything shifts. Everything is not completely different, but it just is. It's different, and there's a reset.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very like, oh, okay, that's it. Almost like took the pressure off of like, okay, I need to get to this big city as quickly as possible. It's like it doesn't even. It matters, but it's like once I get there, I know I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm back to square two.
Yeah.
And let me just.
I just know I have to do it eventually because I was with my ex-girlfriend. We were on like the bluffs of New Jersey, overlooking Manhattan, and I was like,
set the scene. I'm into it. All right, cool.
It's a World War II memorial park, and I look across at the Freedom Tower, and I'm like, eventually I'm gonna live there. And then she turns to me, looks me dead in the eye, and says, "You'll never live there."
Oh my god, it's actually amazing. I love that.
It's like an anime, like and then
that's a driving force behind everything.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I will live
there. A plane crashes right into it. And you're just like, how did you know?
Oh my god! Like I was trying to save you, babe. I don't want you to.
Yeah. I love you, baby.
There's actually an open mic at that penthouse. And,
are there any open mics? And I'm assuming not. In fucking sky. What's like? You ever do stand up at 100 stories or whatever in New York? I don't know.
There was like one that they did that was kind of like on like 23rd Street. It was like a pretty high little space, and it was like, what are we doing here, man? Like, why?
We're basement dwellers.
Yeah, this is stupid, and it's just sort of like, all right. I mean, it's fine, I guess, but you're going up an elevator. It just seems weird to go up an elevator to do
stand up.
A really shitty open mic.
Yeah. That must have been fun. It sounds kind of cool.
But
open mic on Billionaires Row.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I'm very agoraphobic about stand-up. I'm almost like things need to be tight. Things need, like, the ceiling needs to be low. Everything needs to be dim. Like, I mean, obviously, like, there's big theaters, there's big spaces, there's outside. But I'm just like, this feels. I'd almost rather be doing this in a broom closet. Like, this feels something about the space of stand-up.
My
is very
favorite
tight.
shows are when it feels like a fire hazard. Like the Don't Tell show I was on. I was like, this is 50 people crushing a place. This is gonna be awesome.
This is
like,
a
it's gonna
trampling.
feel
That was a
good.
fun space.
It's gonna be
right?
it's gonna be a space where you can they can all collectively laugh together. Whereas
For sure.
if you have a wider space, if it's more spread out, like it's why Parkway over the summer, them trying to do it outside versus Scarps. It was like literally how close the fencing was.
No, exactly.
Like how much you put people together to like do a collective. We're all in this.
Right. Do you have a favorite mic that you go to?
Favorite mic. I don't know.
The success of that mic will hinge on this podcast. So just tread lightly.
I don't know. I mean, I do enjoy the virtual one over here. I like 565. I hosted that one though.
You can say. I mean, it's a good room.
I like Willow. I like. I also kind of do enjoy the one at before Willow at Sunny's. Sometimes can be kind of fun.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
a
Very
good room.
smoke-filled room. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good room because it's crushed in
For sure,
together.
yeah.
And like if you just want to run through stuff, like you have like some newer stuff that you're not sure if you really are ready to do that in front of like a ton of comics. It's a really good room for that. Like
That's true. Yeah. You get what,
I
like
don't
10
know.
minutes? Something like that.
Yeah,
Get a lot of
because
time.
I always get nervous running brand new jokes in front of comics because there's a little part of my brain that's like, oh, they're gonna see this and be like, Georgia's not funny anymore, but that's not the
Word.
case.
Nah,
yeah.
we're all used to it.
Yeah.
Ronnie, what's your next move after Pittsburgh? What are you thinking midterm future?
Allentown.
I don't know, man. I was thinking, I was really weighing moving to Indianapolis. Kevin lives out there, and he was kind of gonna be like, "Hey, you can live with me for a little bit." But I don't know. I'm here at least at SCAF until at the end of June, and I don't know. I might stick around for a little bit. I'm not sure. I actually have no idea.
I mean, Hambones is opening up again apparently, so
Yeah.
that's the true Pittsburgh mecca coming back.
Oh yeah. I was just talking about that the other day.
But
do you remember your?
I'll probably move back to New York at some point,
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
maybe.
Do you remember your first ever open mic?
I do actually.
Alright.
Yeah. I invited people, which was a mistake, and then I remember I got super drunk.
Word.
Yeah.
How old
So-
were you?
I was 22 maybe, 21. And yeah, so I did that, and it was bad. And I remember I did mushrooms that night, and I was just sort of like, what do you,
After the mic.
it was right after the mic, yeah,
Yeah, word.
immediately after. Someone was just like, "You need these." So, so I did that, and I remember like I was just like, "What are you doing?" I don't know. I had like some sort of like, "What do you want to do with comedy, man?" I don't know, man. I'm on these mushrooms. I'm seeing myself on stage and whatever else, and then I showed to work after sleeping at 4 a.m. So
Word.
Yeah.
not a great story, but it's something I did.
Yeah,
you know?
I thought it was kind of cool.
About right.
I mean, my first open mic was after heckling twice, I think, at Scarps and
yes.
Parkway, and everybody hated me.
That's right.
And then I came up and ranted about some weird shit, and then it was like, who the fuck was that?
Yep.
After heckling,
Yeah, so I did improv,
yeah,
and then I made this friend at improv who's a firefighter,
okay,
and we were just kind of like blue-collar-y type motherfuckers. And then we went to, the nudist friend told me about Parkway.
yeah,
So I was like, hey, let's go check out the stand-up thing, because we weren't liking improv that much. So we went there. It was like Parkway, and I got belligerently drunk. And I was like, I don't remember what I was yelling, but I remember walking out, and there was like Blake Scala and Aaron Douglas. And I was like way fatter, too. I was like 40 pounds heavier than this. And I was like, I'm an ex-terrorist. Anyways, I'm gonna go get in the car. And then my friend profusely apologized for like 5 minutes. And then I went to Scarps the next Wednesday, got drunk again, and then I remember the moment when I wanted to do stand-up because I was heckling, and then nobody was liking it. And it turns out everybody I was heckling was new, which I feel bad about looking back, except for Scriva at the very end. And I kept on saying to Scriva some stupid drunk shit, like, when did the joke start or whatever. And then afterwards, he came up and he pounded me, and he was like, that was great. And I was like, there's something here.
You're like, maybe I want to do that.
Give it up for Scriva for encouraging heckling.
Yeah,
honestly.
That's how Patrice started. Patrice was heckling, and then he
Yeah.
did stand up.
Funnily enough, that night at Scarps, Hofstetter was in the back.
Interesting.
And
I remember that.
Somebody told him there's somebody heckling, and he was like, oh, I'm ready. And I left right before he went on, apparently.
shit.
That's the season finale.
damn.
That's when,
Yeah.
when you finally
oh my
meet
gosh.
him. When you finally, that's when you.
The final boss.
Yeah, that's like alluded to it. You know, he's in the background.
Oh man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's your most proud comedy moment? You have a shining star in your brain?
I'm still waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. My most proud comedy moment. I don't know, man. Sometimes you say like you do some like crowd work stuff and you're just like, oh, that was actually fucking pretty good, or like,
Oh yeah, off the
or-
cuff.
off the cuff stuff where you're just like, I wouldn't have been able to handle that a few years ago, and now I can, and that feels
yeah.
nice. You're just like, yeah, all right, neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've grown.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, sorry.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I do feel like there are like different types of milestones in comedy
yeah.
world, but like I had a show at the arcade last weekend where there was a heckler, and I like dealt with it in
Yeah.
a way that I was like, a year ago I would have crumbled, like
For sure,
if this
yeah.
had happened.
Yeah.
And I was able to like get a couple extra laughs off of it, like slowed my set down a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it was one of those moments where I was like, oh shit, like even if I flubbed a line here or whatever, like this is getting incrementally better. Like I think it's those moments at least.
No, it's
that
cool.
Feel
I still I cannot deal with hecklers. I just
I think
completely shut down.
it was like a
So do.
master class in heckling leading up to that show, though. There were like 3 different hecklers that week,
Jeez.
and I watched people deal with it in the shut the fuck up way or the I like that, like let's continue, like engaging with them. And with this one, the first time he spoke up, I think I said like yeah, ha ha ha, I don't want to hear another word from you for the rest of the night, but please don't hit me in the parking lot.
Nice.
And they enjoyed that. And then he yelled at another point, and that's when I just kind of like laid into him. It was like about a stupid Home Depot joke, and I was like, oh, are you a big fan of Home Depot? Like I need a fucking sponsorship. And just like did that, and it worked. And he didn't yell after that, so I kind of did like a combo of what I had seen that week.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I've done this where I'm like, someone says something and I fucking ripped into him, and it was just like, I my friends afterwards like, why do you call the lady a bitch? I was like fucking nuts. Like, why did you do that? And I'm just like, whoa, all right, maybe I shouldn't go to like it was like 3 minutes into like a long set. I'm just like, everyone just like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
God, every time someone heckles me, I turn it up way too much, and I'm
Right,
like,
yeah.
and then I'll like in the middle of the set, I'll be like, and you know what? And I'll like turn. I get very vindictive.
Sure, yeah.
I guess a question I always like to ask is, what was like, because you write a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
What was like the first one that you wrote, you performed, you punched up, and you're like, wow, I really got something. Like your first good, tight joke. Where
Right.
you're like, okay, this is, something's here.
So one of the first ones I did, I don't really do it anymore because it doesn't really work anymore, but I had this whole thing about watermelon sherbet. And it was this it was like a super like alty joke because there wasn't like a lot of punches, but it was just sort of like about like the vibe of it. And it was kind of this thing of like, I had this watermelon roll when I was like a kid, and then I didn't see it again for like 16 years. And it was just sort of like, it was like this thing from my childhood that I was like, and then it kept showing up again, and I'm like, what is this watermelon roll? And it became like,
What is a watermelon roll?
okay, so for watermelon sherbet,
Thank you.
it's a frozen dessert shaped like a watermelon. So you have like a lemon lime sherbet on the outside. It's like the rinds of the watermelon.
Yeah.
Inside, it's like a watermelon sherbet. It's like the pink, and then the chocolate chips are like the seeds.
Word.
Oh,
So
I was with you until there.
no, you're not
Chocolate
into
chips with sherbet, I guess.
You should try it. And so basically, it was just this thing that, and it was just like a departure for me because I was doing like setup punch for a long time, and then there was sort of like this weird kind of like Wonder Years inspired thing where I'm like, it's like nostalgia, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just like going through my life, and it was kind of like it kept showing up. It felt like my Jenny from Forrest Gump,
Right.
which is a better reference 10 years ago. So anyway, so like that was the thing that everyone just like, that watermelon thing, like people, like other comics were like talking about the watermelon roll thing, and I was just like, all right, I guess I have a bit, right?
Nice.
And then
This is my ticket to the big time.
Yeah.
Watermelon roll.
Yeah. So then I think actually what happened is that I did the joke so much that people were like, you can just get that from the store. Like, I didn't, it was a mystery to me. So you go to Friendly's and you can just go pick them up. It's like a summertime thing.
Yeah.
So then I got like, I had too much of it. And then I lost the ability to tell it like I did it.
Watermelon roll became saccharine.
Exactly.
So
When the economic system fucks up your joke, like the availability of things.
But I did have a profile picture for a little bit of just me with a bunch of like the box of the watermelon roll on my car and just posing. So
hell yeah, that's great.
That's
actually
awesome.
really
it reached
good.
a logical conclusion.
I wonder if Chase Freely likes watermelon rolls.
I don't know. He's diabetic, so
He can have one, but he's gonna have to use his pen.
exactly.
So this is a little bit of a stand-up shop talk podcast. I was wondering, you got any process, writing tips, delivery tips for the younger listening stand-up audience? Our audience is 100%
us.
stand-up comedians.
Like,
And yeah.
We are asking you.
I don't know. Let me think. I think sometimes slow down is nice. Like, people are not always as quick, and their brains are not receiving the jokes as comedians, so audience members. So they're just like I think sometimes slowing down is helpful.
Yeah.
And I talk very fast sometimes, so it's something that I need to remember. Let's see what else. I don't know, like little things like lighting. I'm actually a real lighting nerd.
Yeah.
So actually, like I remember doing a show and being like, I feel like I was connecting with them sometimes, and I stopped, and it's like, oh yeah, because your face was not lit. So I kept going in and out of the light.
Right.
And people don't realize like a lot of your obviously like you're expression and stuff, it's kind of how you sell the joke a lot of times. So if they don't see your face, they're losing a lot of the context for the thing.
Last week at Scarps, Ron didn't host and Hillary hosted, but Ron has a spotlight he brings.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the spotlight last Wednesday, and it was like night and day.
Yeah,
difference.
totally kneecapped the whole thing.
Like
yeah.
it was almost like we were antagonizers. Like
totally,
two
no, for
public
sure.
agitators.
Yeah.
Yeah, I produce a lot of shows and I get really thoughtful about like lighting and stuff. So I want to make sure that people have lights in their face and it's not weird shadows and stuff. And it's like it makes a big difference. And it's and I will pound the table for that.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, there's I definitely have had some sets and like some shows where like I'm like that's such a great clip, but half of the time a quarter of my face is out of the light.
Yeah.
Word.
God damn it, you know.
Word. I had someone tell me that I moved around too much when I did stand up. And I used to do stand up online. So I used to do like Zoom shows.
Yeah.
I did,
And you would like pace.
I would pace, yeah. No, seriously, yeah. Well, so I would, I would set up a camera, and I would do it like in my living room. I had like an audio interface. I had an SM75 or something. And I was like performing it was a whole like mentality was the moment things open up, I want to hit the ground running. You obviously fall on your face because it's a totally different thing. But I was very, I was like, I need to make this as accurate as possible. And one guy was like, every time you tell a joke, you're just like fidgeting and moving and like you're going back and forth. So I took some tape, and it's still in my apartment. I took some tape and I made a cross. And I told myself, okay, you can only put your feet in one of these quadrants. So if you're going to move, you have to move from one position to another position. It has to be very like, it's almost like square dancing or something. It's very just like static position, static position, static position. And I did that enough that now people are like, you don't move very much. You gotta really, you gotta move.
But it helped. That you actually
it did.
That's good.
Well, it's also just like it's. I think it's like intention. Really, what he was saying is you didn't move with intention.
Yes.
You would just kind of like just be kind of jittering.
Right.
But it's okay to move if you to deliver a punch, to like shift into like a different character.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of like nervous and kind of whatever all over the place. But yeah, movement was like it's something I think about all the time. Just like, can I actually move in this space? Is this like a good? Can I walk? Can I move forward? Can I move backward? It's something to take into consideration.
Oh yeah, because I have a couple of jokes that are somewhat physical. Like the movements are what adds the extra punch to them. And now that you brought up the lighting, it makes so much sense as to like there were times where I'd be like, this joke just simply isn't working now, and I don't know why. And you can do the inflection the same, but if it's not fully visible or it feels uncomfortable for the audience, then it's not going to work. And that is something, I don't know, like it's one of the things with those physical jokes, like it really is hit or miss on how the space is. It's like, difficult.
No, I always try to keep track of that.
The speed note was interesting too, because one of the things that I've noticed like last week, we've had like a ton of hecklers, and for whatever for my way to like try to like deal with them, whatever, is sometimes just to speed through them.
Sure.
Because there's not even beats for them to interrupt.
No gaps.
Which is like an okay way to deal with a heckler, but a terrible way to do a stand-up set.
Right, yeah.
Like, just...
Like a telegraph.
Oh, it took me like 6 months to pause for laughs. Like that, I was so afraid of silence.
Sure,
I just wanted, like, I was like, if they don't immediately laugh, and then it was when I started learning, like, and I'm still learning it. It's still in progress. But, like, the more I sit back and let them process, let them laugh, that is like the better my sets are getting and the longer they are, because I realized I was like cramming a bunch of freaking material into it. Didn't need to be like that. Like pick the best pieces.
Well, we're about to hit an hour. Does anybody have any last burning questions for Ronnie or Yvonne? I can tell you got one deep in there. Look at that.
My eyes are glinting.
Those mischievous eyebrows right now.
Oh, you know me.
The real question he's been sitting on.
No, honestly, I was just gonna ask if how often do you listen back to your sets?
Not enough.
Yeah, I always feel like that's the case.
Yeah, it's one of those things that obviously it'll make you better, but man, it is painful.
It's
right?
agonizing.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I because I have a lot of verbal tics. I say a fuck ton. It's actually one of those things I was trying to work on this month, and I told a friend of mine, I'm like, hey man, another comic. I'm like, dude, count how many times I say in this set. If I do it more than 15 times, I'm gonna buy you ice cream.
Ooh.
If I do less than 15, I'm gonna buy myself ice cream.
Very
right?
nice.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he's like, you only did it 13,
Ice cream, watermelon roll.
but you said right 98 times.
Oh,
So-
I feel like it's always chasing, like something pops
Yeah.
up. Like I got through a bit of like uhs through laughs. But now I just layer in, oh, but I will say, like, is something that I just layer in front of jokes because in my brain apparently it's a transition. But yeah, it's like you're constantly chasing and it just pops up some other way.
I would start a lot of jokes with "I put it to you," which is like a very congressional. Like
I actually like that a lot.
That is the most Zevon thing.
No,
I've
I
ever
would
heard in my entire life.
and I would like almost like I'd be like I put it to you that I'm like I'm talking
Stealing
about
that, yeah.
dicks. I don't know why. It's like no, listen.
Fair audience, I put it to you.
Yeah, very. I'm just trying to. Be
I remember. Does anybody else remember they were on 9/11?
Right.
Once they came.
So, what do you got coming up? Where can we see you?
Go to, if anybody's in Pittsburgh, Don't Tell Pittsburgh. I host a lot of those shows. Don't Tell Pittsburgh on Instagram. You can go to ronniefleming.com/shows for shows. I'm touring a few weekends a year. So in the next few months, I'll be traveling around, a lot in PA right now, and then figuring it out from there. But I am going to be in... actually, that stuff is not materialized yet, so I'm like, fucking forget about it.
No, this is a sonic vision board.
I
You just say
may
it.
be opening up for Dave Chappelle in 2024.
So yeah, oh yeah, that's
If he
nice, yeah.
returns my emails. That's right. I've written him a lot of stationery. Well, this was really fun. This was
Yeah, thanks for having me,
a
guys.
hoot and a
Appreciate
half.
it.
What do you really think, Zevon? What do you really think?
Well,
I've had a great time. Thank you so much
Really
for
off
coming
the
on,
air.
Ronnie.
Thank you
We
so
really
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
all right. Cool beans.
Cool beans. That's how we end the podcast.
Cool beans.